Welcome, one and all, to another edition of the Defo Show with Lubie on 5 Reasons Sports Network, brought to you by Water Cleanup of Florida. When life gets salty, make yourself a margarita. When water damage gets you mold, call Water Cleanup of Florida. When disaster strikes in your home or business, you need specialized, fast, and reliable services. Water Cleanup of Florida understands how an unexpected property damage can overtake your life or business. Don't stress and allow over 60 years plus of combined experience handle your restoration project from start to finish. Michael, Robert, George, and the rest of the water cleanup team are prepared to handle disasters of all sizes, 24 hours a day, 365 days a year. Water Cleanup of Florida is also fully licensed, insured, and general contractors that provides the one-stop shopping that busy home and business owners require. Their objective is to make the cleanup and insurance claim process painless and hassle-free. Service area also includes pretty much all of South Florida, Miami, Broward, and the Palm Beach counties. Call Michael anytime on his personal cell phone at 954-579-0356. That's 954-579-0356. Or visit their website at wcufl.com. You can also follow them on the socials, Facebook and Instagram at Water Cleanup FL, at Water Cleanup FL. And please check out their more than 80 5-star reviews on Google. Water Cleanup of Florida. If you have the schmutz, they have the guts. The Miami Heat in recent years have had lots and lots and lots of guts. This year, I don't know if that's the case. It's funny. The talent may be an issue. You may be running it back with the same group, and they tried to add pieces, and they weren't able to do it. And you're seeing this team this year be up and down. It also feels like effort is an issue. That Knicks game, the Nets game, the Hornets game, the Sixers game without Embiid, it feels like for an organization that's built itself on Heat culture and effort, it seemed lackluster. Yeah, the Knicks Friday night, in that second half, the Heat really turned it on and played much better. But they were playing horrendous basketball that first half. They got down in a way they shouldn't have. And they almost came back and won. And even on that last defensive possession, you saw the Miami Heat almost take the ball from Julius Randle and then give him a wide open shot. Yes, there were 3 Heat players there. But when you watch the shot, first of all, the ball was on the floor. 3 Heat guys were there. They should have been able to grab it and end the game. No one goes after it. They don't. Randle picks it up clean, and he literally heaves it. A 3-point shot. When you look at the replay, there's 3 Heat guys there, and no one makes a play on the ball. And that's sort of what this Heat season has been. The Heat now are sitting there in the 7th seed. The Knicks are 4.5 games up on them in the 5th seed. And the Nets now are 2.5 games up on them on the 6th seed. Been an up and down year for the Heat. Defo and I talked about where the Heat are, accepting what the Heat are, and what hope we can and should have for the Miami Heat the rest of the season right here on the Defo Show with Lubie on the 5 Reasons Sports Network.
We could get into a little bit of NBA, if you don't mind, Lubie. Is that okay?
I've been,
NBA?
Look, I'm getting back into, even though the Heat are very frustrating and confusing at this
The
time.
Heat are just not that good this year.
No, they're not.
I mean, why don't you, just come to this realization that you can't make them into something they're not.
I've accepted it. I mean, look, the Knicks are playing well, but they should have won that fucking game. I mean, the fact that literally it was a weird, like that last shot.
Oh, well, what luck there by Randle.
It was a tough shot, and good for him that he made it. But the Heat should have stolen the ball 3 times. Then
that was Luka Doncic, making that shot.
It was just weird because the Heat had 3 chances to steal it, and then when he goes to shoot it, he's wide open. It's like, how are you on him until he shoots it? And he had a clean look. It's like, how do you give a guy? He couldn't pass it. There's a second left. Why would you not be in his face? Whatever. They've been very, look, they're losing to the Nets.
That shot was blind luck. It went in, man.
It was.
It really was.
Hoisted one, but I'm just saying, like.
He was hot, but, that was ridiculous to cap it off.
The Heat have just played bad. They played bad basketball. They got.
Is he the comeback player of the year, Julius Randle?
Could
he be?
Good question, because 2 years ago he was an all-star caliber player. Last year he fell off a cliff, and now he's back.
Boy, they wanted to get rid of him, man. I mean, it was literally, a verbal lynch mob. I don't want to, use anything and no reference to any racial stuff, but they were on the attack on Julius Randle. They wanted him out of New York. They thought he was the detriment to the team. I'm not sure what they thought. I guess there was always some thought that Quickly could turn out to be something, but wasn't he the guy that was included in almost every trade conversation that they had?
Yes, well,
that Quickly was going to go. He was brilliant last night. Had like 38 points. He couldn't miss.
And he was great.
Fantastic. 9 in a row for the Knicks. Double overtime.
I know.
Yeah.
I don't know what's going on with the Knicks. But good for them, I guess. They've been down for
They were getting hammered. Like, they were getting pretty well handled through about 3/4 of that game.
Yes.
And then I turned away for a while, and when I came back, they were in the lead at the end of the third quarter. Literally, like, they'd scored a couple of knockdowns or something. I was a complete reversal of form. And then they had a pretty substantial lead. We've seen Boston do this a few times this year where they look to be hopelessly out of it with like a minute and a half to go, and they somehow rally and overcome a 7-point deficit, sends games into overtime. I don't know. A lot of euphoria, Lubie, in this New York Post today. They don't have that game covered, but they're really digging this streak. And it doesn't help your team any, your Miami Heat, that's for sure.
Disaster. I mean, the Nets got a win yesterday, too, and the Nets are supposed to fall off a cliff.
Yeah, but they played Charlotte without LaMelo Ball.
Well, I mean, they won. They should be on the same term as Charlotte. With
their win over the Celtics, though, I mean, it does seem like the Celtics are starting to wilt a little bit, no? And I don't mean Chamberlain.
I think the Celtics are really good. I don't think the Celtics are. I've never understood why they put them on the same level as the Bucks. I think the Bucks are in a class of their own. And I think the Celtics and Sixers are on that.
Did they get the Dragon, by the way?
Yes,
the Bucks?
they did. The Bucks have done all the stuff the Heat should have done, and the Heat didn't. They went and got.
I don't think Dragic was going to take the Heat over the top.
No, but I think he contributed in a way that Lowry hasn't played in 13 games, and there's nothing wrong with him. He says his knee's bothering him, so they can't push him. The doctors haven't found anything wrong with the guy. So get rid of him.
Arlen Selznick is looking at the guy going, you look fine to me, Kyle.
That's supposedly the word. Supposedly the word is he's probably okay, but he doesn't think he's okay, so they can't push him. Okay, so then why is he on the roster? I guess that's
he wasn't going to take him over the top either. They don't have the goods, Libby.
Very clear. Look
in the mirror and tell yourself they don't have the goods.
No, I didn't think.
And there's nothing wrong with that. You don't have it all the time, but they're going to have to make some kind of adjustment in thinking.
Yep.
I don't know. I mean, how treacherous their situation is with salary cap considerations and concerns. But if they keep coming back with this same team, they're not going anywhere.
They need to turn over the roster. I mean, look, Bam and Butler are your pieces, and everyone else should be up for grabs. Even Hero. Hero hasn't grown the way he was supposed to. He just hasn't.
No, Hero's wildly inconsistent. You'll see him score 33 one night and 14 the next.
Yep.
And, while he has a lot of offensive ability, I don't know that he becomes a liability ever, but, you're asking yourself, why isn't this guy more consistent at this point? I mean, he was last year, right? Sixth man of the year.
Well, because they had him in the perfect role. Like, Lowry gave you a little bit more last year. He wasn't good, but he gave you something. He's giving you nothing this year. Hero was supposed to step up and be the third dude on this team, and he's more like a fourth or a fifth guy. That's what Hero is, and it doesn't work.
Jim Sarney has finally gotten to me here. All right, so what do you say about this Durant thing? He scores 30 last night. He has the dagger shot with about 11 seconds to go in a game. My man Devin Booker, who to this day you won't admit was a far superior basketball player to Justice Winslow.
What do you mean? He's turned out to be the best. That's the problem with that draft is he's the only one that was good. So he had a better chance of failing than succeeding. Literally,
who else? Who was in like the top top five?
Karl Anthony Towns has turned out to be pretty good. So I
guess he's a good
Anthony
player.
Towns wasn't a bust, but he hasn't been as good as Booker. Porzingis was another guy that was in that draft.
Porzingis was an interesting player, but never really did anything sensational.
And look, Winslow, the guy Stanley or whatever that the Pistons took, like it's a long list of Booker was the only guy that's really turned out to be anything in that draft. That draft turned out to be garbage.
Still baffles me how scouts don't see this. How is it possible to be a professional sports scout and have no insight into what you're looking at? To not be able to go ahead and sort of forecast who can transition and take their ability that is inherent and unique to them and make it work as a pro. How do they not know this? There was what did I tell you? I saw this guy for like 3 seconds. I said, "Wow, that guy's going to be a good pro."
He just barely played at Kentucky. He was a backup point guard, so like it's hard to.
Yeah, I mean, he was he the seventh guy on Kentucky to be drafted in that draft?
He was 6th or 7th on that.
Who was the big center? He was a bust. He didn't look like he was going to be much. They had a center on that team that went, I think, well before Booker in the top 5.
See, now I'm confusing drafts because Bam wasn't in that.
Maybe I don't know if it was Towns.
Confusing drafts. Towns was on that. Yes, Towns was Kentucky. He went number 1 and. Booker was.
There was another guy, like a big. He was a big man. I don't know if he was a center, but he was a big man, and I think he had a hyphenated name, and he wasn't all that great.
Oh, Cauley Stein. Yeah, I think Cauley Stein was in that
Cauley
draft
Stein.
too, and Frank Kaminsky and the other guy from Wisconsin were in that draft too. It turned out to be
Kaminsky, a lot of people doubted whether he was going to be a great pro.
Yeah, again, that draft was a disaster. Outside of Towns and Booker. And Towns has never done it.
The Winslow thing was particularly painful, and it will remain so because if you think about it, I mean, did that lead to a long period? I know the Heat in the year that the bubble was there. That was kind of unusual with the COVID-19 thing. Did make it to the NBA Finals, right? Did they not make it to the finals that year?
He did. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. And you thought they had a shot in there, but they didn't. It turned out. But I mean, that was an aberration, wasn't it? Because just a couple of years before that, they were like 11-30 in the first half of the season before they turned that around, and that led Pat Riley to make a bunch of really screwball moves that he's not normally inclined to do. Which is, I mean, as cold-hearted as Riley was, like in that thing with Anthony. Remember the guard, Anthony Carter?
Yes.
I mean, the second his agent let that slip past, I mean, it wasn't even 12. 1. It was like 12 o'clock and a half a second.
Yep.
And Riley had Carter's contract in the shredder.
Yep.
It was just like, whoosh, tear this up.
Yep.
So he could be cold-hearted, but then, he got suckered into giving, how many bad contracts did he?
It was a ton.
Did he dole out there,
right?
Hassan
Whiteside ended up being a bad contract. Deion Waiters, bad contract.
Whiteside,
James
wow,
Johnson,
that was
bad
atrocious,
contract.
right?
Tyler Johnson, bad contract. Like, he did a ton of them. Look, they were actually supposed to be bad that year. Jimmy Butler did what Heat fans are hoping Joel Embiid does this offseason, and that's why the Heat haven't been. The Heat bank on getting free agents, not developing players. Bam and Hero and Wade are 3 outliers. Usually they just hope a free agent wants to come here, and it's worked. Like LeBron came here, and Shaq came here, and Jimmy Butler came here, and that's what saved them, and they turned around quicker than people would thought. But the problem is they don't have a lot of foundation. They don't have draft picks. They don't have a lot of young guys that anyone wants, and they're in a really horrible position. Like the hope is Embiid supposedly, if the Sixers lose in the second round or earlier, is going to want out. And he's talked a lot about playing along Bam because him and Bam's games complement each other very well.
That would change things significantly.
That's the thing. Because Durant didn't want to come here, and like a lot
you give him Hero, you give him Lowry,
a lot of garbage. Yeah, you just give him a lot of
you
garbage.
give him Duncan Robinson.
You give him everything.
You give him Pat Cummings' contract, remaining years on his contract, even though he's dead.
A little bit of Grant Long. Yes.
Grant might have some shelf life. UD gets dealt in the deal.
Yes, that's where the Heat are right now.
No loyalty. That's it. Just ice cold. You trade UD. Okay, well, that would make a difference. That's for sure. If you were like an evil James Lipton type that was doing sports interviews, like one-on-one interviews, where he sat the guy down and there was a spotlight on him and maybe like a little silhouette type of background, and you looked at Pat Riley, you're sitting down with the most distinguished guy maybe in the NBA history, and you just sat down and as the audience looked on, they got a little quiet there for a second, and you just looked at him and said, Dion Waiters.
Yeah.
You're like, what? Waiters? Are you kidding me? That would do it, right? That would be the end of the show. Would you get a walk-off there?
100. Yeah, he would just get up.
It was kind of like asking Don Shula, how could you be satisfied with a win, no cover? And Don would just, that was it, man. Unclip the microphone and whoosh, right out the door.
So the season isn't done yet. The Knicks are playing really well. Go on the road to Boston, take on the Celtics without Jalen Brunson, arguably their best or second best player, and they win. So the Knicks are on a roll. The Nets, look, the Hornets are horrendous without LaMelo Ball, but still, the Nets got to win. The Heat aren't in a great spot. However, 17 games to go. Again, find themselves 2.5 games out of the 6th seed, 4.5 games out of the 5 seed. It's a weird place because when you look at Jimmy Butler, to me, he's as good as any player in the league, honestly. Like, yeah, Luka and Jokic and Giannis put up these great numbers. When it comes to the playoffs, if you watch the playoffs the last 5 to 6 years, or whether it was his time with the Bulls, the Sixers, the Heat, the T-Wolves didn't really make it, but Jimmy Butler, when it comes to playoffs, is as good as anyone in the league. So once they're there, Bam Adebayo is taking his game. Outside of 4 of the last 5 games, he wasn't playing well. Most of this year, Bam has played really well. And then the Hawks game, Bam played really well. you fall off a cliff from that point. Oladipo has not been what he was supposed to be. Tyler Hero is very hit or miss. And the rest of the roster is And there was a lot of guys that were supposed to take another step. Caleb Martin, Gabe Vincent. And Vincent's played pretty well, but he's not a starting point guard in this league. Martin has not taken a step. Strus has not taken a step. Duncan Robinson is totally useless. Kyle Lowry doesn't play. So there's not much after Jimmy Butler and Bam Adebayo. So it's hard to see this team making a run. However, 17 games left. If they can use that Hawks game, that really annoying loss to the Knicks, I can see them making. I still feel like I really thought they'd get to the 5, maybe the 4 spot. It feels like that's not happening right now. But I do feel like they will get to the 6th seed. And I don't see them beating a Sixers in the first round. But you know what? At least they won't have to do the play-in. So at least they'll be a playoff team. And yes, this offseason, look, the last couple offseasons, they've tried to make moves. They've tried to retool. They've tried to get the big fish, the whale, as they say. I don't know if they're going to be able to do it, but we'll see. A lot of the reports out of Philadelphia are if the Sixers don't get past the second round, meaning not just winning a first-round series getting to the second round, but if they lose to a Bucks, if they lose to a Celtics in that second round, they're going to be looking to make changes because it's not working. Like, you're paying Harden a ton of money. You're going to have to pay Maxey. You're paying I think they pay Maxey a lot of money. They pay Harden a lot of money. They pay Embiid a ton of money. They have a lot of money in, so there's really no room to get better, and they've maxed out. And if that's the case, Embiid is going to be looking to move elsewhere. He supposedly is really cool with Bam, and the reality is Bam, Butler, and Embiid is much better than whatever the Sixers have going, and will make the Heat right there with the Bucks and the Celtics. So if you're an Embiid, and Miami wins, and Miami plays hard, which is something that the Sixers haven't always done. And Embiid, it's funny, Butler liked playing with Embiid, and Embiid liked playing with Butler. When Butler talked crap about being in Philadelphia, it wasn't Embiid. He was talking about a guy that's now with the Brooklyn Nets. So Embiid, I think, misses playing alongside Jimmy Butler, a guy who winning is everything for him, and that Embiid wants to win. That's what the Heat have missed out. The Suns ended up having a nice trade to give to the Brooklyn Nets, but the reason Kevin Durant is with the Suns is because he asked to go there. The Heat have gotten lucky in that regard where you got a Shaq who's looking forward to going to Miami. You got a LeBron with Chris Bosh, who Dwayne Wade had a lot to do with that, engineering them to come to Miami. Jimmy Butler, again, Dwayne Wade had a lot to do with Jimmy Butler wanted to be in Miami. It wasn't like the Heat had the best trade to give to the Sixers. It was that Jimmy Butler wanted to be here, so he did whatever he had to do to get here. The Heat haven't had that. The last couple years, Kevin Durant has not tried to come here. You know, Giannis is staying put in Milwaukee. Like, the superstar that the Heat were working to get have not leveraged their wares to get to South Florida. Embiid may be one of those guys. I think with Bam and Butler, you have a nice two pieces. It's all these other guys. You have to retool. You have to get shooters. They were the best three-point shooting team in the league last year, and this year they weren't. This year they've been a disaster, and that's where they've fallen off a cliff. It's going to be a huge offseason for Miami Heat. Look, the season's not done again, 17 games, and I think they'll find themselves in the 16. You never know with this team. The Sixers aren't scary. They're not imposing. Embiid's great, and Harden's played really well this year. And so far, I've been wrong about Harden. We've seen Harden in the playoffs, and I don't know if this is the year he's going to prove it. So, yes, if you're the Heat of those three teams, you'd rather play the Sixers. They play the Sixers really well, and they literally just beat a Sixers team in Philadelphia with Embiid. However, they then lost with the Sixers at home without Embiid. So it's been a weird year for the Heat. It isn't over. I am tempering my expectations. I don't know if I'm writing them off. I'll still pay attention, obviously, and I'm sure you will as well. It feels different than in years past, where last year, 2 years ago, 3 years ago, going into the playoffs, it felt like you never know. Maybe they could do something. Maybe something can happen. This year, it doesn't have that exact feeling. But again, with Jimmy Butler, with Bam Adebayo, I don't put it past them to make some kind of a run. These last 17 games are going to be very interesting. We try to be interesting every morning. Check us out, The Defo Show with Lubie on South Florida Live. Check out our national podcast. We talked with journalist, Good Morning America co-host, The View co-host, now author, Paula Ferris on our Believe podcast, BLEAV.com. Search After Hours and check out the other segment that is titled after Defo, but I'm highly involved. Defo on 5 right here as well. A lot shorter bite size of Defo and myself. And again, we try and keep most of our South Florida content right here. The Defo Show with Lubie on the 5 Reasons Sports Network.
From the newly renovated sports bar to the beautiful bayside views captured at the Tiki Bar, Jimmy Johnson's Big Chill has it all. Located at mile marker 104, the Big Chill also offers waterfront dining while experiencing breathtaking sunset views of the Florida Keys. It's simply the hottest spot in the Keys to cool off. That's Jimmy Johnson's Big Chill at mile marker 104 in Key Largo. For more information, call today at 305-453-9066.
Play the ponies in style at Champions, the outstanding simulcasting room at beautiful Hialeah Park. Yes, the grand old lady of thoroughbred racing has never been more vibrant, and you can wager on the races from the top tracks around the country while enjoying a cocktail at the Brass Rail Bar or any of the fine food served throughout the facility. If poker is your game, you're covered in style, and you can play all your favorite Vegas-style games, including blackjack, craps, and roulette, in Hialeah Park's sizzling hot casino. Get a player's card when you walk through the door for all kinds of generous amenities, including our favorite, free play, when you come out to the ultimate casino and entertainment destination, Hialeah Park.